consent is something that is consistent, and actually it is a law. I mean, it only came into law in 1991, where marital rape became illegal. So before that, it wasn't seen as illegal, which obviously says, you know, as especially over here in England, it really says where we've like come so far. Alongside that, there's financial abuse, and economic abuse, which I think we don't speak about enough. There's a charity called Surviving Economic Abuse that specialise on this form of abuse, because there's not enough conversation around it, and pretty much through a lot of cases there's always financial abuse there. So that is carried out in, sometimes it can be reinforced by gender roles, so believing, you know, in a heterosexual couple, believing that a woman shouldn't work, which are actually stopping her from earning her own money and having license to spend it how she wants. As in a lot of cases, you know, one partner might be financially dependent on another, and they could use that to control their partner. It also can be played out in ways of someone asking their partner to take out a loan, but in their name. So now when the debt is incurred, the debt, people wanting the money back now are only going to go after the partner who's taking it out in their name. They've been coerced and forced to take it out for their partner. Also, as well, when we think of rent and mortgages, when payments are supposed to be split, in some cases, one partner, well, the abuser might decide not to pay their half, which means that the other partner, the victim, now needs to pay all of that, and now is also at a financial loss because of it. It's also controlling how someone spends their money, and it's also affecting someone's business, where they might have financial loss as well, and it also is damaging someone's goods. So, for instance, you know, maybe smashing a car or stealing their goods, where now they have to financially fork out to replace those items. Another form of domestic abuse is also, which needs to be spoken about more as well, is harassment and stalking.
Okay.
Especially, you know, when partners might break up, and let's just say the abuser might decide to wait outside the victim's workplace all the time, or hover outside their home, or, for instance, send them abusive messages on Facebook, send them abusive messages via text as well. This all comes as part of domestic abuse. And even if, you know, if someone has left a relationship, if the abuse is coming from a former partner, it is still domestic abuse. So I think it's really important that we remember that there's an umbrella of abuse, and a lot of people experiencing this will experience pretty much all of those forms of abuse. So it's not just one at a time, you know, a lot of them can happen all at the same time, which when we empathize with the survivor of domestic abuse, we have to figure how much they've actually been going through, because it affects you psychologically. It's a form of trauma. Trauma affects the brain, you know, so it does have such an impact on someone, and I think we all need to empathize that and have more of these conversations so we can reach out and help people when they need it.
Thank you so much. Amelia, you know, you've actually done a very good breakdown of domestic violence, because most people don't even know that when you're harassing somebody or telling them or even stalking them or even insulting them using fake Facebook accounts to insult people is actually an abuse, and is like is punishable under the law. So thank you so much for that. Can you go into the statistic, because you know we know about recent incidents that's happening around in terms of couples stabbing themselves. So what is the statistics of domestic violence that you think you know of a case study that has led to death or to even worse scenario? At least let's use Buckingham Dagenham as a case study.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of England and Wales alone, 2 women a week are killed due to domestic violence.
Wow.
So there's 52 weeks in a year, so we're looking at about 104 women a year that are killed due to domestic violence. And also that is important to point out that that's when it's been noted down as a cause of domestic violence. Now, if no one's ever picked up on that kind of issue, then it might not be noted down as domestic violence, so it's probably higher. Another thing to also point out is suicides. So there's actually statistics that say, you know, it's estimated around 3 women a week commit suicide as a result of domestic abuse also.
Let me stop there. So women are committing suicide as a result of being abused.
Yeah.
Why?
So, I mean, there's a lot of barriers to seeking help. And I think, again, this is what we also need to have a conversation around, because a lot of victims or survivors of domestic abuse don't feel believed when they're told, when they tell someone, because unfortunately there is this misconception that people make it up. There's this misconception of, that's only their side of the story, when really collectively as a community we need to be believing survivors and victims, because as I've said, the statistics are so high. 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will experience domestic abuse, and 1 in 6 to 7 men in their lifetime will experience domestic abuse. So it's very high. So when someone does reach out and they do disclose that, you need to believe them
and take them serious.
When we're looking at barriers as well, we have to remember that the abuser has ultimately controlled this person and has power over them. So it's actually quite scary to speak out about it because of the repercussions if they don't get the right effective help. It's actually the most dangerous part it's the most dangerous point when a victim wants to leave an abusive relationship. That is the most dangerous point, and that's unfortunately where a lot of homicides and murders can happen, when a victim tries to leave an abusive relationship. But that being said, I don't want to discourage anyone from thinking that they can't leave. They absolutely can, and there are support services that can help you with that, and there are plenty of cases. I know loads of women through my job that have successfully left abusive relationships and are on the road of recovery and healing.
Wow, thank you.
But also in terms of barriers to seeking help or speaking out, it also, when we think of our cultural views on domestic abuse, and there's shame that can come with it as well. A lot of people might think they don't want to say that this has happened to me. We believe that domestic abuse only happens to a certain type of person, when actually, someone could be a CEO of a business and incredibly powerful and influential, but behind closed doors, they're being manipulated and controlled and abused by their partner. So we need to completely just get rid of this myth that, it only happens to weak people. Actually, I personally think, and I think we should all think, survivors of domestic abuse are probably the strongest amongst our community.
Oh, thank you so much. So, Vicky, coming to what Amelia said just now, that she mentioned that most people are actually committing suicide, and obviously that people think when they talk there is a stigma. So, what can you tell us? Why do you think people are not talking? What is the pressure that the society is putting on people in terms of stopping them from talking?
Okay, I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to speak about people in Nigeria and people here, because they're two different things. But like Amelia said, you have to be very, very strong when you want to leave an abusive relationship, which is why a lot of women, due to hopelessness, they just decide to kill themselves.
Wow.
Because I remember when I was removed from our family home and put in a refuge, and I stayed in the refuge for about 6 months, but I know that up to half of the women that came into the refuge went back
to the marriage,
yes, because they just couldn't cope.
Wow.
They just couldn't cope, because what happened is most of their husbands had made them so dependent on the man that they cannot even take care of the children. And a lot of these men have kind of, brought up the children in such a way that they are so aggressive and angry with their moms.
Okay.
So there was this incident that every night this woman, she was always finding it difficult to control her children. And yeah, she just got up one day and, and just left. So that kind of woman, I wonder where she is now, if she's still alive. Yeah, because the guy was not just raping her, but he was allowing his friends to also have sex with her.
Wow.
Yes. he was also, and this is a Muslim family, this is a Muslim lady. She didn't even speak good English and all that. So
quickly,
like
Vicky, quickly, based on that, we are going to look at because of what happened, I couldn't actually say this at the beginning. Thank you so much, Vicky. So we are going to look at this from the professional point of view. What does the law? We're looking at it now. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be looking at the religious perspective. So people that are thinking because you're a Christian or because you're a Muslim, you have to die, both male and female, because obviously the men get abused as well, the women get abused. Let's get really right here. We're going to be looking at what does the religion say, what does the Bible say, what does the Quran say. So sorry to stop you, I just thought I should chip that in. Please continue.
Yeah, so apart from the hopelessness, then there's culture as well. And most parents, due to selfishness or just nonchalant attitudes, or it's been a generation of abusers, so they do not see anything wrong when their child is being abused, especially if it's a female child. And it's not just in Africa, but it also happens here. Because due to pride, a lot of parents will say it's better you remain in that marriage than you leave. If you leave, we'll disown you. So that fear would also cause the woman to either kill herself or leave and just cut off all links and communication with her family. And a lot of times it is worse when children are involved, because when children are involved, you're not just dealing with your own emotions. You now have a lot of explaining to do to those children who have also witnessed abuse, whom most of the time are also being abused themselves. So these are the things that make it. And to be very, very honest, I know that the government does help here, but you have to be strong to get the help you need. Because if you're not strong to get the help you need, I'm sorry, social services will work for you, will work with you for a limited time, and they will leave you. Because as soon as you're out of that high risk category, you're on your own. And then you're now, maybe assigned to early help. Early help, as soon as they think you're able to make certain decisions on your own, they leave you.
Wow.
So you have to be really, really strong. At a point, I was so frustrated with my ex that I was begging social services, like, please, I still need you guys. But they were like, you know what? Even the early help person, we can't help you anymore. Like, So, and it's worse when you have a systematic abuser. A lot of them know the law. A lot of them are lawyers. I'm currently dealing with a lawyer. So he knows how to structure his abuse within the confines of the law, which drives me crazy. Now, I have to be strong mentally, not to overreact. Because when I overreact, the thing comes against, which is what I always tell women. Like, when the perpetrator is attacking you, please call the police. Don't fight back. Because if you fight back, which has happened to me, you get arrested. If the first person that calls the police, unfortunately, the police will not decide and say, oh, okay, but who hit first? The police is always like, who called us first?
First, that's it.
So I'm always telling women that, please, when he starts to hit you, run. Don't stay there and say you can defend yourself. Because he will hit you and he will call the police and you will be arrested like I was arrested.
Wow.
Right? And the frustration of not being believed, because everything you're saying at that time, they're not listening because of the law of who calls the police first. That's all we are here for. You understand? So if there's no blood on the woman and she's not about to die, then you'll be thrown into jail. So it's all these frustrations, that leads to women killing themselves, women staying in an abusive relationship, because it's not easy to leave. I don't know how to sound it. I've been trying to finalize my divorce for 6 years.
Wow. Till now?
Yeah, 6 years now. I'm even having a Zoom court session on Thursday, on the 9th. Yeah, because first, he's not receiving the papers. I think the last time he said divorce is against his principle. But he's living with another woman in the house and he's carrying on with his life and he's not bothered about. But divorce is against your principle. So I don't know. I want to tear my head out.
Vicky, let me stop you. Let me quickly stop you. But you know what? Can you go into how were you able to make that decision to say, you know what, I am done here?
I didn't make the decision, Labake. The police removed me and the children.
Okay.
Because one thing I always tell people is abusers always meet or go to vulnerable looking, quiet, nice, decent girls. They don't go to the slay queens. They don't go to the well-established, strong girl or woman. They always have a background history about the victim. They don't just go to a pub and pick a girl and say, okay, I'm going to make you my wife. No. They'll go to the pub, pick the girl, and they'll study the girl. And they don't start hitting from day one. No, they are so loving from day one. So you would think you're that you'll be saying, God, where has this man been all my life? And it doesn't start with violence. It starts with psychological and mental abuse. The physical is the last stage. So, first of all was the shame of being an actress and being in a failed marriage. So I had to endure. And then, obviously, I had health challenges with cancer and everything. And then I was thinking about the children, and the fear of, oh, what if my cancer comes back? Let me just try and be friends with this person. But the more you're trying to be nice and reasonable, the more the perpetrator will take advantage of it. And you know what? I would have been dead by now because the constant threat to life, like, I will kill you. This marriage is for better, for what? If you leave me, I will kill you. Or I'll make sure that you don't enjoy your life. To an extent, he does it because, I mean, when he would use your name to get mortgages, uncountable letters of debts. Sometimes I can't even. But it got to a stage where I said, well, I was ready to die because I couldn't think of any other thing to do. Like, I was ready to die because I felt hopeless. And again, I wasn't aware of all the help that was out there.
Thank you. So
because it did not allow me to listen to the news. News was not allowed in the house. I wasn't allowed to watch EastEnders or Coronation Street. You know why? Because at the end of this program, they put a phone number, and that phone number says, if you've experienced any of these things, please call us. So he makes sure that I don't watch EastEnders, and anything I'm watching, he's watching. When he's not watching TV, I'm not allowed to watch TV.
That's actually really, really the height of it. Let me stop you there, Vicky. Amelia, because the essence of this program is that we want to let people know, we want to encourage people that, look, it's going to be tough. And what I've seen in my years of experience is that when you see a survivor, Victoria is a survivor. I would say she's a survivor, yeah. If we leave her to talk, it's just like 5 hours won't be enough because, because at the end of the day, it didn't just happen overnight. We're talking of years of abuse, years and years. So, but we want to focus more on the support out there. Let me take over to Amelia. Amelia, how can someone that is going through domestic violence, how how can they access support? Bear in mind that the abusers are very intelligent. Look at what Vicky said. They don't allow them to do this. They don't allow them to do that. So what advice can you give them? How can they access support? Back to you, Amelia.
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Victoria, for sharing that, because I think understanding people's experiences, you know, is the best way to understand, you know, what people are actually going through. You know, it's way more powerful than statistics, actually hearing survivors like yourself. So thank you so much for sharing that. And as Victoria highlighted, perpetrators are very, very good at manipulating systems, manipulating people. They might be the nicest person at work, the nicest person to everyone else, which they do deliberately. They like to control their environment and people's perceptions on them. So when it comes to accessing help, it is difficult for victims, and it's done intentionally. So what I want to open up is we need to have a community response. So if you are friends with someone who you're maybe worried about their relationship, open up that dialogue. Obviously, when they're not with the abuser, try and just ask them how they are. You know, if you feel like there's something not going right, you can also access services. So I mean, the main helpline that I would put out to anyone is the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, which is 0808.
Please, before you start, can one of the admin please put it on the Facebook, the helpline for domestic violence? Can you please stop typing and put it on the Facebook so that people can access it? Carry on, please. Thank you, Amalia.
Yeah. So it's 0808 2000 247. It's a 24/7 helpline that you can call. But it's also for people who might be concerned about friends. If you're not, or friends or family, if you're not sure how to approach the situation, you can call up a professional and see how you can help them as well. I think also in ways that people can get help, speak to your GP if you can. You know, also pregnancy is a very dangerous time for survivors and victims of domestic abuse, because actually the abuse increases around pregnancy. So midwives, speak to your midwives if you can. If there's any midwives listening, ask the questions. Ask whether they feel like they are in control of their relationship, whether they feel like they are in control of their lives. Ask the questions. You know, this is everybody's business, you know, whether I'm sure we have so many professionals that are watching right now as well. Are you asking the right questions to people for them to access support? You know, in many boroughs there's a specific service that is actually commissioned there to support survivors. For instance, in Barking and Dagenham, it's Refuge that will support anyone. So find out in your borough who it is that's helping people. And I mean, if you're not in an abusive relationship, it's still our job to look out for people. So look out, open up the conversations as well. If you are someone that is looking for support, speak to someone. Try and speak to someone. Whoever you feel safest with, whoever you feel more comfortable with, open up that dialogue. You're not alone. And we believe you. That's the main message that we need to get out there. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault you're in that position. It's not your fault you're being treated that way. It is the perpetrator's decision to treat you that way. So we need to empower people to get support. But one thing I would also like to say is, as much as we want to support people, we need to prevent it. So we need to be having discussions with our children, our younger generation, on what's healthy, what makes a healthy relationship, and what domestic abuse is. Children who live in households where there's domestic abuse are experiencing the abuse as well. They are experiencing the dynamics between their parents. They are witnessing it, they are experiencing it, they are internalizing it. So it's important. I know we think, you know, we can't talk about this to children because they're too young, but I think we all know when we were a certain age, we picked up on a lot more than we thought, than our elders thought that we did. So we need to have these conversations. You know, speak to your sons about how to respect women and make sure there is equality in relationships. Speak to your daughters about female empowerment and being empowered in a relationship, but also not having to be in one. It is okay if you are by yourself. It is okay. You're just as valuable as anyone else. So we need to prevent, and we also need to support. So have the conversations with the community, with our young people, and also familiarize yourself with support services in your boroughs, and also open up these conversations. Have the conversations with people. It is our business. If you have a family member and maybe they're with a partner that you don't like because they're not treating them very well, don't push them away, because you are then helping the perpetrator isolate that person. Have a constructive, healthy conversation as to why you don't like their partner. But also focus on the abuse. Saying, if, for instance, your partner shouldn't hit you. You shouldn't be hit. You should be allowed to control your own finances. You should be only taking out loans for you.
Amelia, let me quickly stop you because of the time. The line is open now. Please, if you want to call in, the admin put the number to call on the Facebook, please? It's 079-353-18757. For those people on the Dignity radio station, please, if you want to call in, the number again, I repeat, is 079-353-18757. Please, you can kindly call in to contribute or to actually ask questions, since we have the professionals on the show now. You don't have to mention your name. I know this is a very, very delicate topic we're treating. Calls are anonymous. I just want you to go straight to your question, and we're happy to support you. Please carry on, Amelia. Thank you.
Yes, I can't remember what I was saying now anymore. But yeah, so we need to prevent and we need to support. So we need to it's a community response. And we need to, normalize the conversations around just domestic abuse rather than normalizing the behaviors. There are a lot of people that think that it's fine to treat people in certain ways because maybe they grew up in a household where they saw that from their parents, but it's not fine, and we need to openly condemn it. We need to say we don't tolerate it. It's not okay. And also we're not using religion as a reason to allow it.
No.
Religion does not allow domestic abuse.
At all.
It does not. So I think that's really important. Marriage is seen very highly in some people's eyes. And when we say for better or for worse, that doesn't include abuse. That is not part of the worst points of marriage.
We're talking about.
Abuse is abuse, and you should not tolerate abuse. And there's nothing wrong with getting a divorce from someone who is abusing you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Thank you so much. So as we get the calls in, we're gonna, whatever we are saying, please try to stop so that we'll pick up the call, that will continue. So I'll be taking notes so that you don't forget. So coming back to Victoria, thank you so much, Amelia, for that. So Victoria, how were you able to cope in terms of, I know you have children as at that, when that thing happened. So how are you able to cope in terms of, were you able to talk to your children? Was it easy for you? How are you able to deal with it?
Well, I would say the refuge I went to had the best support workers there. I would just say I'm lucky. Because they have a children's play group, and they had 2 people that would talk to the children and try to explain to the children exactly what's going on.
Okay.
So it makes it easier for you as a parent to, engage with the children. But Emilia, I would like to stress that one of the biggest problems is not even speaking out. It is when to speak out.
When.
When. For instance, I did not speak out. And I say it, if the police had not removed me from the property, the police have been called to our property, but the neighbors had called police so multiple times, but I would deny.
Wow.
I would actually tell the police, we're having an argument, or if my face was bruised, I fell down, or I was walking and I hit the wall, but 6 years ago, I want to believe that things have changed, because I'm sure the police knew I was lying, but there was nothing they could do.
Of course.
But I want a situation where the police would have more power to actually look at the woman and say, you're lying, he hit you. Because what happens is, okay, well, you don't want to admit, we're going to have to go. Now, everything is happening in less than 30 minutes. 30 minutes is not enough for somebody to accept and say yes. So I feel we need to do more to explain to people, first of all, break down what domestic violence is. Because a lot of people think it's only when he hits you. No. The psychological abuse, calling someone for your compassion.
We have a caller on the show. 1 minute. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's good to have you back. And good evening, Amelia. Good evening, Victoria. And I would just like to say thank you, Victoria, for sharing your experience, because it's really good that, because you're a very famous, popular person in Nigeria, and that if people can be able to relate well and be open, and you giving people the options of, to be open and by telling your story. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And then I also wanted to further talk more about the coercive control part as well, because from Africa, most violence, when it happens, most especially the mothers tend not to leave, because one, you have the emotional blackmail, like, oh, well, I can't leave my children, and then the family, the extended family, because of what they've been through as well, such as parents, grandparents, and all that, they all say, oh, you have to endure, there's nothing, and then most people end up dying through it, and the men are not reprimanded for their actions, and it's just like, I just want to say that both men, because I'm not saying that men don't go through abuse as well.
Definitely.
But I would just like us to just embrace each other and believe one another, and don't stay in a violent home. Don't stay with an abusive person, because that person has to find themselves. If someone doesn't love themselves, there's no way they can show you love. They'll only show you the surface, what they think is right. So yeah, thank you for this platform. And a question for Amelia. Okay. Before I keep ranting on, because Vicky said something like, when she left the refuge, there was no further support from the social services. And do you have any other means that people that are stuck or feel that they are stuck, and they feel like they've been abandoned at this time, because they feel like, oh, well, we've taken you from one spot to another. What other area, what other benefit, what other source can they, what other source available, what other source, is there any other source available? I'm ranting because I'm babbling, sorry for that. But yeah, so thank you. I love you, because I'm so passionate. It's so I'm ranting and babbling, so I really do apologize.
That's all right. Thank you so much, Kola.
Yeah, thank you.
So we leave it to Amelia. Amelia, can you pick up that question, please?
Yeah. So in terms of other wider support, you know what? There is a lack of wider support, and what Barking and Dagenham has done, the reason why we've launched this commission where we're looking at people's attitudes and experiences on a localized level, is because we know that there's just not enough being done for victims and survivors of domestic abuse. There is not enough being done. Like Victoria said, when she left the refuge, there was very little help to support. And domestic abuse isn't just the relationship, it's also the healing time as well.
Of course.
There's psychological healing that needs to be done as well. So one thing that we've learned in Barking and Dagenham is the need for community groups. Okay. So we need to empower survivors, whether you work in a business or in a council yourself, open up that dialogue to support these community groups where, survivors can come together and they can own their own support groups as well. Because sometimes it is just that coming into a safe space to talk about their experiences, to feel heard, and to feel...
Can you hold on, please? Can you hold on, caller? All right. We got another caller on the phone. Welcome to Earth Matters program.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this topic you've chosen. My question is like, we've been speaking about the victim of domestic violence. Now my question is, an abuser of domestic violence, is it possible for them to change?
No. I'll get that. You know what? No, they don't change. They don't. They only devise another strategy when they know that a certain strategy has been, exposed. They devise another strategy to continue. So you giving them the opportunity for peace sake or for children's sake you're actually digging your grave.
Mm.
Now, a lot of times they will put them through to go for anger management classes.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, which is paid by the government. Most of the time is mandatory in court.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go for mediation. I went through all that. But the biggest problem is the perpetrators. They do not like giving up the victim.
Mm.
It kind of your intimidation and your sorrow and the issues you're going through is like air that they breathe. So they always want to be in control. And if there are children involved, you need to be strong mentally. It's not a physical thing. And you need to have the ability to ignore them and just walk away. Because a lot of the time they want to just trigger you to the state that you lose your mind. Right? Because things could happen, it happened, but they will convince you are imagining things. It never happened, or it didn't happen that way.
Okay.
So they will turn you against yourself. They will turn everybody, even your children. So there's always this period called the romance period.
We have a call on the show. Vicky, we'll take this call. Okay. Hello, welcome on Earth Matters program. Hello.
Hello.
You're welcome on Earth Matters program.
Yeah, can we contribute to the program?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I think your guest is still talking.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Dr. July. Just to make a little contribution to your program.
Thank you so much, sir.
Firstly, I want to commend the courage of Victoria Anyama coming on the show to share her personal experience about domestic abuse, and also the...
Can you talk a bit louder, sir?
I said I want to first of all commend the courage of Victoria Anyama coming on the program to share a personal experience of domestic abuse in the United Kingdom, and also to commend the thought and the insight given by Amelia on this program. A lot has been said and made quite a few comments also on the Facebook. Now, with respect to change, people who are perpetrators of domestic abuse, whether they're capable of changing, it's right what Victoria said. It's quite difficult for them to change because this is more or less a personality issue. Just a few weeks ago, I was giving a talk on this specific matter, and I did say that we need to call a spade a spade. That perpetrators of domestic abuse are commonly people with a psychopathic and sociopathic personality. They hardly change. And those kind of personalities, such that, they lack empathy, and they continue to perpetrate this behavior ongoing, unless the individual who is the victim is taken away from them. And you will see that even if they go ahead and form other relationships, after that, they will continue the same behavior. So it's an enduring pattern of behavior. And that is why you shouldn't really leave anyone in that kind of situation. They need to move away and save their lives and save the lives of their children. That is one comment I want to make. On the other hand, I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Okay.
I know it's not in...
Go ahead, please.
There are quite a few number of people who also make allegations of domestic abuse, against their partners for secondary gain. We know that, in different cultures, this happens either because they want to live independently, or they want to latch on to the benefit system, or for immigration reasons. I'm having to do a report for an individual now who unfortunately is experiencing the same thing, whereby domestic abuse has been alleged, falsely, without evidence, just because the other party obviously is looking for secondary gain. So this can also happen. I think the question to Amelia is this: how do you sort of deal with this kind of situation, whereby somebody is making false allegations? Because it's serious, it's very damaging. to allege somebody to be a perpetrator of domestic abuse when in fact they are not, and the other party is making the allegation is actually doing it for secondary gain. How do you deal with those kind of situations? I think that's my question to Amelia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amelia, can you pick that up, please? Did you get that?
Yeah, so we're talking about false allegations of domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Thank you for bringing that up. But I think we don't have the space to talk about people that are making it up. The statistics are very high. And what we need to do is start having a culture of believing. We can't second guess. And unfortunately, when we look at the criminal law system, not enough perpetrators are being convicted because of lack of evidence. Now, how do you prove someone has been psychologically abusing you? When something has happened in a household where it's only you two, we can't keep having this conversation of, they're making it up, because then so many survivors aren't getting support now because they don't want to speak out in fear that they're not going to be believed. So as much as that's a very valid point to bring up, I also want to use that point to say we can't speak about that. That's a very tiny percentage of women or victims that speak out about domestic abuse. It's a very, very tiny percentage, because also I've spoken to services where, for instance, housing services, where they've kind of gatekept someone opening a homeless application because they've not believed someone has experienced domestic abuse. Someone shouldn't have to prove it that they've experienced domestic abuse. And how do you prove it when you're dealing with a narcissist who's the perpetrator, who will manipulate the system and use that in their defense to keep manipulating the victim and the system? So what I would say is believe anyone that says that they are experiencing domestic abuse. Believe them, because there's far too many victims who are not speaking about it because they feel like they're not going to be believed. And we're not going to focus on the small percentage of people that might make false allegations. But again, we don't know. It happens in every culture, across every race. Unfortunately, it's a massive issue in terms of gender equality as well. So we have to believe victims of domestic abuse, and we can't entertain this conversation too much about who's making it up.
We have another caller on the show. 1 minute. Hello, welcome on Earth Matters program.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for this educative topic. So my question is, does a child who grows up in a violent home always end up being violent?
Okay.
Okay. Because I also I did my research on this. Not really, but 20% make a conscious decision that they are not going to be like their father. And so they go out of their way, even when they marry a very active woman, and say, because of what I experienced and what I went through as a child, I would not allow that happen. So I will continue to cope with this. And that is the minority of a few men that are also in domestic abusive marriages, but they are still there. They are not just there because they are men and they want to feel like being a man. No, they are there because of what they have gone through in their childhood. They've had a lot of childhood adversity, and they've made up their minds that it will not happen to my children because I know how I felt. But I can also say that 80%, yes, are from abusive homes. And that means that they don't respect women because their father never respected their mom. They heard their dad call their mom all kinds of names. So they grow up not respecting women. Why I'm saying this is because even in the refuge and personal experience, I have to put my children through counseling, especially my first son, because he was hearing so much from his father that he was projecting it to others, even his female class teacher, right? So I had to, set him up for counseling, and over like 2 years, they had to restructure his brain and explain to him that is wrong. If not, if I had lived in denial of it, I don't know what could have happened by now. Yeah. So 20% of men is a conscious decision, right? But the majority, if you trace it, yes, it's been psychologically researched and proven, psychopaths and the rest of them. Sometimes I can also tell you it's genetic. Yes, it is genetic as well, to an extent. So there's a history of abuse. And there's this thing they say that the abused always become the abuser. Because if for example, a child that does not know the meaning of idiot, never heard anybody use the word idiot or the F word, anytime you use it on the child is going to be wondering like, what's going on? Because it's a foreign word. But if you check out those words being used in the house aggressively and continuously, before you know it, you're going to see a 5-year-old, spilling his ice cream and saying whatever. And it grew, and it starts from there.
Can I add?
Yeah, sure. Amelia, go on.
Yeah, so I mean, not all children who've experienced domestic abuse in the household will grow up to be victims or perpetrators. And I think that's really important to add as well, that it doesn't mean because that's your background,
you have to
that you are going to go into a relationship like that. I've actually spoken to survivors that have gone on, child survivors that have gone on to do amazing things in the community. Some actually go the other way, where they want to advocate, and they want to open up the conversations and they want to educate people. But again, it's also, how that child is supported as well. So you said yourself, Victoria, that your son went to counselling. That's a brilliant move. Children need to also have a space where they can reflect on their experiences also and make sense of it. So it is important how we support children as well. That can also have an impact on how they, what they see as a healthy relationship and what they don't.
Thank you so much for everyone who has called on today's program. And a big thank you to all the admins on the show today. I want to say a massive thank you to Victoria Iyama. Look, I love you, girl. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Not just because you've shared your experience. It takes a very strong woman to actually sit down, because you're going to be, some people will still condemn you. You see, that's a problem. The problem is that we, the society, are the major reason why people are not coming out. Because your next door neighbor, as soon as they see you call the police, they gossip about you. Your best friend will gossip about you. Your family will nail you down. But it boils down to you. It's up to you. It's your life. It's your decision. If you die today, it's you that is involved. If you live today and you come out of an abusive relationship, you're actually able to pick up and you manage the remaining and you're living fine. People will talk about it and still praise it, that look, oh, she's doing well, he's doing well. So we need to be able to understand that nobody wants to be a single father, nobody wants to be a single mother. For you to go into a marriage in the first place, there was something called attraction, love. So in the first place, there was something that you have that was mutual, or maybe whatever that actually got you, the two of you, connected to one another. And if that thing is missing and the other person is actually not understanding that, look, we can sit down. At the moment, if a man is not able to sit down and talk about an issue, and if what they do is actually just not even lashing out on you all the time, if what they do all the time is actually make you feel depressed, emotionally depressed, psychologically depressed, even if you call the police and said, I'm abused, and there is no wound or blood in UK, you know what I mean? Because of what the last caller said, because of people that are abusing, how can you prove that you're emotionally abused? You understand? It's your life. It's only you that knows what you're going through emotionally and psychologically and how it's affecting your day-to-day activities. So it's going to be your decision. You don't need people to support you or people to kind of acknowledge. That's what we're looking for. We always want people to kind of, what's the right word to use? We want people to actually validate that, oh, this person is truly being abused. Or you're looking for people to kind of give you the go ahead. It's your life, it's your decision. You should be able to work out and maybe separate and see if you can work out things. And if things are not going to work out, then you leave. And I keep saying nobody wants to be a single mother. But at the same time, I would rather be a single mother rather than to be underneath the ground. You understand? Domestic violence is real. It happens every day, and not everybody is able to actually come out of it alive. So what I'm going to say now is that please call the line, go back on the Facebook, call the line, and make sure that you're actually getting the right support that you need. I want to appreciate Amelia Grant. Thank you so much, darling, for today, for coming up on today's program. It was actually like it was not going to happen initially, but I really thank you for your patience, for your support, for your love. I want to pass a message to all the Barking and Dagenham Council, to all the committee, to the team. Please tell them I really appreciate them, and please say to Florence that I'm saying hello, and I really appreciate the support for allowing you to come and support me on this program. I want to say a big thank you to my husband in the person of Mobolaji Solanke, the CEO of Dignity Radio Station, for all his support, for all. And I want to say a big thank you to all my fans there, to all the admin on Earth Matters program. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to come back. We're going to do a part 2 of this program. I might be bringing Amelia back actually, because we need to be able to understand that what is religion saying. For people that thinks, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I can't leave my marriage. We need to understand that it's either you're alive or you're dead, if it's really getting to that place. So till I see you next week, in 2 weeks' time or next month, stay tuned. Remember, your Earth matters. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.